Welcome to the INFOWARS Nightly News. It is Tuesday, August 5th, 2014, and I'm Leanne McAdoo. Here's what's coming up tonight.
Tonight, the war on self-sufficiency intensifies as the feds shut down a seed library in Pennsylvania. And why are U.S. health authorities concealing the number of suspected Ebola victims from the public? Plus, illegal aliens are a no-show for immigration court proceedings. Say it isn't so. All that plus much more tonight on the INFOWARS Nightly News.
In an apparent attempt to avoid hysteria, U.S. health officials are avoiding letting the public know about potential Ebola cases.
I should point out as well, Wolf, that the hospital has, made this known. There have been about a half a dozen patients who have had their blood tested because of concern. Those particular patients, their stories were not made public. This patient was. I'm not sure if that's because of heightened concern by the hospital or what that means exactly. But again, we just can't say for sure until the final tests come back. And, they want to be sure on this. It takes about a day or so.
Now, Dr. Gupta also appeared to suggest that those patients that were being tested for Ebola are not being kept in isolation. The hospital says it's not concerned about this because Ebola is not an airborne virus. Now, as we reported yesterday, despite health authorities downplaying the likelihood of Ebola going airborne, studies by Canadian scientists suggest that this is, in fact, at least to a limited degree, possible. So the hospital is not concerned. However, the media is ramping up the Ebola fear porn. We've got Wolf Blitzer and CNN stationed right outside the hospital, salivating at the potentiality of there being an Ebola outbreak here in America. Why? Why are they ramping this up right now? We have 100,000 cases of Americans dying every single year in America from influenza. So why all of a sudden are they ramping up the fear over Ebola, something that has killed about 700 people this year in what is known as the deadliest outbreak of this disease on record? 700. So is it because Big Pharma is planning on rolling out a new Ebola vaccine they're going to force on all of us? Or is it to keep us in a perpetual state of fear? I am not quite sure. All I know is that this is what we reported on last Friday. This is what John Rappaport said we should be prepared for. Is the media really ramping up the fear surrounding this outbreak? Falling for it means you fall for the forced vaccinations as well as the martial law style roundup that is going to happen if they can get everyone in a state of fear of a potential carrier of Ebola. Now, the two Americans who are being treated for this disease that were transported from West Africa to America are being treated with an experimental vaccine. This one has so far only been treated on animals. ZMapp is a biotechnology drug, and it's produced with tobacco plants, and it appears to be working. Now, the FDA has not approved any drugs so far to treat Ebola, but these two American medical aid workers were able to give informed consent to take this experimental treatment. It's not scheduled for clinical trials until next year. So treatment for the two aid workers could take up to 3 weeks, so we'll just have to wait and see if this experimental vaccine is working. But it is good news. They say it does appear to be working. Ebola might not be this potential threat to America that they're really ramping it up to be, but the catch is if the healthcare workers who are treating these patients use meticulous care. And of course, that is where the danger lies, because we've reported before about how the CDC and these maximum security lab facilities have mishandled potential bioweapons in the past. So of course, there's always room for human error. But that's what this whole Ebola scare is all about, is distracting us. It's all about distraction, keeping everyone from talking about what's really going on. Everyone can talk about, the potential for an Ebola outbreak rather than focusing on the fact that our reps are on a 5-week vacation partying and fundraising while there's a potential national health threat as well as the borders are collapsing right before our very eyes. It's all just this tactic. We've seen it used over and over again, divide and conquer, distract us from talking about the real issues that actually affect our national interests and not, of course, political interests like the the war on women, right? The war on women. They had feminists all in a tizzy because Hobby Lobby only wanted to pay for 16 of the 20 required birth control there that is required through the Affordable Care Act. So feminists are going after Hobby Lobby and the boss doesn't want to pay for my birth control. Meanwhile, there's an actual war on women. In some countries, women are forced to have abortions. They're forced into female genital mutilation. Some women are not allowed to drive. In some countries, women are told not to laugh in public. That is the real war on women. Here with the globalists, this is, rather than having all these feminists go against that, they're going after Hobby Lobby. Now, Congressman Mo Brooks was also causing a little controversy this week. He's saying it's not just the whole racism meme and the war on women meme, but actually a war on whites. Now, he sparked this controversy, suggesting that the Obama administration and the Democratic Party are waging a war on whites as part of a strategy to divide voters on key issues.
This is a part of the war on whites that's being launched by the Democratic Party. And the way in which they're launching this war is by claiming that whites hate everybody else. It's a part of the strategy that Barack Obama implemented in 2008, continued in 2012, where he divides us all on race, on sex, greed, envy, class warfare. Illegal immigration hurts every single demographic group. It doesn't make any difference if you're a white American, a black American, a Hispanic American, an Asian American, or if you're a woman or a man.
And Brooks is absolutely right. Hispanic civil rights leader Cesar Chavez was actually very anti-illegal immigration because he knew that it would drive down wages. Now, Brooks went on to say that the left is going to try and turn immigration into a racial issue rather than a thoughtful issue. And of course, we should see even more of these race-baiting tactics leading up to the election. Now, as this war on whites ramps up, it's really convincing young people and especially dreamers who are being very outspoken here pre-election that whites are against them and the Republicans are the party of white people and that they are against them. And of course, this is causing the emotional reaction that the left really wants to see. Now, a dramatic exchange was caught on tape between anti-amnesty rep Steve King and an illegal immigrant who confronted him at a fundraiser. Now, this whole exchange was caught on tape. Here, the young lady is basically challenging King to rip up her DACA papers since he wants to get rid of her so bad. And she's really trying to get that exchange documented on camera of him ripping up her papers. Of course, he's not going to fall for it. The two young people in the video are very emotional, saying how they love America, they love this country. One says he even tried to join the army, but he wasn't allowed to. They're basically saying, you know, how can King be against them? Their parents brought them here. The young lady says her mom was fleeing from a violent relationship from her father, and she tried to enter the country legally, but she was denied entry into the U.S., and then so she came anyway with her children to protect her children. Now, King responds calmly to the young lady and asks, is it okay that she violates the law? And I'm really sorry that you come from a lawless country. I hope that you can have a happy life, but please do not erode the rule of law in America. And King goes on to say they're here demanding that we change the laws. Why would you want to bring lawlessness to the United States of America? And that's the question they cannot answer, why we would want to turn America into a third world country. Now, of course, that is the issue. A lot of people don't want to talk about that. If we open up the borders, what is going to happen here? We're going to turn into the third world country. Of course, that's what we were saying is, you know, with the Cloward and Piven strategy, basically what they would like to see happen. But that's what we're fighting against. It's not about sending home kids who have been in this country, that America is all they've known. I don't think anyone, I mean, I'm sure there are some extremists out there that feel that way, but that's not the issue. We shouldn't even be talking about amnesty before we fix the situation at the border. It is truly a national security threat, having wide open borders and just letting anyone in. And of course, just talking about amnesty and allowing deferred adjudication is just encouraging even more people to, as quickly as they can, enter this country illegally. Now, if you need any more proof that this current border fix that's been proposed by the Obama administration to speed up the deportation process by bringing more judges into the border towns is a total joke, here, according to the Los Angeles Times, even though the Department of Justice has been pushing the unaccompanied alien children to the front of the line when it comes to immigration court proceedings, the children aren't showing up. In just one day at a Los Angeles immigration court last week, Judge Ashley Tabador heard the cases of nearly 40 illegal immigrant minors, but none of the children appeared in court. Now, in each case, the illegal immigrant minor was thought to have been resettled elsewhere. They were trying to find them sponsors, of course, and so the judge decided not to deport the children in absentia, instead issued a change of venue orders in each case for each of these 40 children. And we are seeing this over and over again. Children are quickly being transported into the interior. They're being sent on to other facilities, to their sponsors, to their family. And so they're having to issue change of venue orders in each case, which of course pushes the proceedings back months, sometimes even years for each child. Now, in response to this large number of change of venue orders, ICE has implemented a new process by which officials will wait to be sure that these unaccompanied minors have been set up with a sponsor or 60 days has passed. And of course, they're going to be sending all of these juvenile cases to one specific central location. So it's just not a bureaucratic mess. But that's basically the issue here is there's a huge backlog of cases. Now there are even more cases that are backlogged because this new process just started in June. So all of the unaccompanied minors that came here prior to June are now kind of in this backlog, change of venue orders. Everyone's kind of trying to figure out where they are, where they're placed. So it really wasn't a fix to get the $3.7 billion in emergency funding that Obama requested last month to get all of these judges there to speed up the process because, of course, it's just a bureaucratic mess, a backlog. And again, this new process could take years per child to go ahead and fix the situation. Now, Congress, of course, denied giving Obama that $3.7 billion in emergency funding to fix the border. And perhaps that's because U.S. debt under Obama has ballooned to $17 trillion. That is $7 trillion more than it was when Obama took office. $7 trillion he has spent in a little more than 5 years. If you want to compare that, just to history, it took more than 223 years for the U.S. to accumulate its first $7 trillion in debt. Obama reached that, of course, in a little more than 5 years. In that same amount of time, George W. Bush had increased it by $2.7 trillion and Clinton by $1.3 trillion. So here's what Obama had to say about Bush's spending when he was on the campaign trail in 2008.
The problem is that the way Bush has done it over the last 8 years is to take out a credit card from the Bank of China in the name of our children, driving up our national debt. Number 43 added $4 trillion by his lonesome, so that we now have over $9 trillion of debt that we are going to have to pay back. $30,000 for every man, woman, and child. That's irresponsible. It's unpatriotic.
And now, of course, it is more than $55,000 for every man, woman, and child. That is unpatriotic. But you know what? Obama says just raise the debt ceiling. It doesn't actually raise the debt, just like opening up the borders to anyone who wants to come in, whether or not they're going to add value to the economy, is going to be good for the economy. Right? Because anyone who can do math knows that, $7 an hour isn't going to be enough to support yourself and your family. And of course, you're going to have to get a government handout. And that's good for the economy. That is really good for the economy. But you know what? Tell that to Tennessee. All of Tennessee's employment growth since 2000 has gone to immigrants. This is according to the Center for Immigration Studies. They've analyzed recent government data on employment, and their analysis shows that since 2000, all of the net increase in the number of working age people that are holding a job in Tennessee has gone to immigrants, both legal and illegal. Now, this is the case even though the native born there in Tennessee accounted for 60% of the growth in the state's total working age population. So this is in response to a Gang of 8 immigration bill that was passed by the U.S. Senate last June. It would have roughly doubled the number of new foreign workers allowed into the country, as well as legalized illegal immigrants. Now, this is just one state alone that's showing that